Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Inside the Birds. Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan. We're doing this because obviously the Eagles are in the NFC Championship. They're playing the Washington Commanders on Sunday, 3 o'clock kickoff, and we want to do a quick update on the injury situation facing both teams because, well, Adam, it's fairly significant. Nick Sirianni talked today about the Eagles' injuries. I feel like he used very interesting phrasing when asked about Quan Mitchell and Jaylen Herz, where he said they're going to do everything they can to be ready for Sunday. When I hear that, that signals to me that these guys, I expect them to be able to play, barring any setbacks, but I don't know if either of them are going to be even close to 100%. What's your outlook on this, and how do you see it?
All right, so with Jaylen Herz, he injured his left knee on a really nice run. I believe it was to the right sideline. And, he made a juke move, and then he got caught up with some of the guys trying to tackle him on the right sideline there. So he didn't look right after that, and that's a problem. He had a beautiful touchdown run, and then later this run I was talking about. So if he's able to play, and obviously he's going to do it, he's obviously going to want to play no matter what. If he can walk, he's probably going to play. But the thing is, he's such a big part of the run game. If he can't, if he's not, if they don't really design runs, which they do, or if he can't scramble enough, honestly, you got to look elsewhere. If he cannot perform his job to his standard, as a guy at half speed, and the other thing is you don't know how he drops back. So they'll get through practice, they'll see what he can and can't do, then they'll make a decision. I mean, the chances are good that he's going to play, but he didn't look right after that injury. It's disappointing. So I'm very curious what he's able to do in practice. By the way, it'll start on Wednesday. They have the normal practice week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as do the Commanders. Walkthrough Saturday, game same time as last week, 3 p.m. Eastern. Let's see what Jaylen can do, and then they'll go from there. And then remember, by the way, Kenny Pickett still recovering from the multiple broken ribs. That's something that, yes, he's been the number 2 quarterback. He's been available to be the number 2 quarterback. And Tanner McKee's been the 3. That's what they've done all season. So that's where that stands, unless they decided to shock everybody and change it. But that's not something you really do in the playoffs. You don't change something like that when Pickett's taken all the 2s. I mean, the fact that McKee was the inactive 3rd quarterback last week tells you what they were doing in practice, by the way, just so people understand.
Right.
But, yeah, it's disappointing. Jaylen, remember, he has a broken left finger. I'm looking at my injury chart for him this season. He had the concussion. He came through with that very, very well, remember. He had an ankle injury very early in the season, and now he's got this left knee injury. We just have to see what it looks like. We have to see what he can and can't do.
Yeah, I've watched the replay of the hit that he took at the end of the run. It was a nice run. He definitely, you watch it over and over, and I've seen it several times. His body bent in a very unnatural way, and the knee bent in an unnatural way. And, I know the internet doctors are out there saying it could be PCL or MCL. I'm not saying like regular fans. I'm saying the actual, there's now a cottage industry of actual doctors who look at the video and try to diagnose, which I'm not even going to try to get into, but many of them have said it looked like the potential for some kind of ligament. And I didn't see ACL. I saw PCL, MCL. It doesn't really, at this point, you watch it enough, Adam, and then you saw how he played after it to say that he had trouble moving around. There's no question. And I have a hard time believing that Monday through Saturday is going to be such a dramatic improvement that on Sunday he's going to be the Jaylen Herz that we normally see. So I think that it's fair to expect that he'll be inhibited in some way. That's why I go back to my original statement. The question is, how much? Is it, to your point, that he's barely runnable, which would really, or barely movable in the pocket, which would actually leave him vulnerable to more injury? I mean, Washington is going to know that. They're going to test him early. They're going to see what he's got. And if he can't move, they're going to try to hit him and get to him and blitz him and do everything they can. And that worked it didn't work for him last game, but obviously he left the last game and Kenny Pickett came in. So it is definitely a situation worth monitoring. We'll see when the injury reports come out, what he's able to do. We'll see if he has to start off as limited and then work his way to full. We don't know. But I do have major, major concerns just watching the way the knee bent and then watching his movement ability, both north, south, and laterally in that game. And then planting too. You have to talk about being able to plant your leg and make a strong throw if your knee is bothering you. You said it was the left knee, right? So
Yeah.
that's the
That's his plant leg. That's
Yeah,
his plant
the
leg,
plant leg.
and the right one is the power leg. So yeah, that's not good, man.
Yeah, if you can't transfer your weight from your power leg to your plant leg, you lose torque and velocity on your throw. We know that. We've seen that a lot of players have to deal with that. So that's going to be interesting. Let's move on to Quan Mitchell.
Real quick, just
Yeah.
so you know, we're planning on for Patreon Wednesday night having former Eagles quarterbacks coach who won a Super Bowl with him, John D. Philippo. John was a former quarterback at James Madison, and obviously one of the best quarterback coaches in the league for a number of years. So we'll ask him about a left knee injury for a quarterback. What would that entail in terms of practice, and if depending on the obviously degree of the injury, how that would impact him for the game? I'm very curious about what his response will be. So we'll definitely ask him. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a big factor in this game coming up. The second big factor, of course, is Quan Mitchell, who left with the neck/shoulder injury. I believe the Eagles are calling it shoulder, and was not ruled out immediately, which you made a really good point on that in the post-game show. That's good. Nakobe Dean was ruled out immediately, so you knew it was bad. It was bad, torn patellar tendon. He wasn't ruled out immediately, but he was eventually ruled out. We know that, Adam, with neck, shoulder areas, sometimes it's like you get a stinger, sometimes it's a nerve. And this, to me, is the most variance type of injury because I've seen guys go on IR with stingers before, and I've seen guys play the next week. And usually what people tell you is it becomes either a pain tolerance thing where you don't get that feeling back and you need multiple weeks, or you go on IR. And some say it hurts, but you can play through it. So this is another case where a guy who I would anticipate is going to feel it a little bit on game day, but we have to see when we get to that point, can he play through it or does it inhibit him very much?
Yeah, he did say, he told reporters he's going to play.
Yep.
So
we've also heard that before from guys, and then
I did not play. It's funny. I'm going to get. It's funny you say that because I on a Sunday night there was a story that I'm going to say between 2010 and 2013, a player. I'm not going to name the player, but he told reporters off the record. He goes, "Hey guys, I'm playing. I don't want to talk about the injury. So we're not talking about it. I'm not talking about it. I'm definitely playing." The guy wound up not playing. He wasn't lying because he thought he'd be fine by Sunday. Not fine, but be able to play.
Right.
So Quinion's a rookie. He knows himself. Whatever that type of shoulder injury it is. Now, if it's a stinger, what the players have explained to me before, you kind of lose feeling. You pinch the nerve in your shoulder, and it's that. But massage therapy, you loosen it up as much as possible. You hope it comes back. Now, I'm very interested to see what Wednesday's injury report will be now, because reporters don't see him practice, but they can see if he's out there, if he's running around a little bit. Now, if he's wearing a non-contact jersey, which would be a red one, that's something to watch for the reporters on Wednesday. I usually look at that particularly when Andy used to let us watch all of practice. Boy, I would always want to see, are they taking contact? Are they pushing off?
Right.
So that's something that I want to see. Now, a couple other minor notes we should have with injuries, and we'll get to AJ Brown.
Real quick though, he could also be wearing the shoulder protection that sometimes you see the defensive players, especially, or even
harness. If he's spraining the shoulder, he'd be wearing a harness. But yes, it's a good point about protection. We'll see. You might have seen during the game, Saquon Barkley was wearing a wrap on his right wrist or hand. That's what they don't have to list him on it because he played through it, and he's probably not going to miss any practice time. Now, if he did Wednesday, if it wasn't rest, the dreaded rest, that's what it would be, because it was very clear it was wrapped. So keep an eye on that. Now, the big one is AJ Brown. He clearly has not looked good since that game at home against the Steelers. And by the way, this was over a month. It's 5 weeks now. It's about 5 weeks. It was actually December 15th at home. They decided not to run the ball to put the game away. They were up by 14. They threw the ball with 6 minutes left, and unfortunately, AJ on that catch got tackled awkwardly. I know some people were saying it should have been a hip drop. It was not, but it was awkward, no doubt about it. And unfortunately, he's not been the same now. It's been 5 weeks. And this is absolutely hurt their passing game. People want to blame Hertz all they want, but if you look at that game, Devontae Smith dropped the ball over the middle, which was a post route. Yes, he got crunched. It was a penalty against in the divisional round game last week against the Rams. Well, it was a great throw, and Devontae just couldn't hold on to it, but he got hit. And AJ dropped the 9 route down the right sideline. I mean, he should have had it. It had nothing to do with an injury. I don't believe that. It absolutely had a ball he should have had. It was right in his hands. And he dropped it. And look, he's had a great year in terms of catching, and he also had a great year statistically. But this is the ball he should have had. Now, the one over the middle, obviously, he's not getting because he would have got crunched. No receiver's getting that ball. You're trying to protect yourself. That ball was too over the middle. But bottom line is that AJ has not looked the same, and it's crushing their passing game. It's a problem I know Commander fans are watching this, and Lattimore obviously is healthy with the hamstring, healthy enough. He's able to play through it. This is a big deal, and the Dan Quinn did confirm that they play a little bit more zone than they normally do in the Detroit game. So that was interesting. We'll see what their approach is this Sunday.
Yep, we will. And I think that about does it for Eagles injuries for the most part. Again,
one more. One more.
Who else? Who am I missing?
Well, just because he's eligible to practice and potentially play, I doubt he would play, but you never know. Britton Covey, this is the week.
That's right.
Yep. Coming back from this neck injury where the treatment, he was not cleared as I understood it back then. Back in week 17, he went on IR. So he served 17, 18 in the first 2 games. So he served 4 games. He's eligible to come back this week if he was able to get cleared medically, but he's been out so much that he's barely played this season.
Yeah. I'd be surprised. I think I'd be surprised. And I know Cooper DeJean was a little loose with I'm going to blame the elements a little bit on that. And I know Vic doesn't want him, but you want your best players in the best positions. And normally that would be Britton Covey, but he has not played. Well, it's got to be. I mean, if he hasn't just played that much all year long because of this. So I can't imagine they're just going to throw him out there after being out for so long. But we'll see. Maybe he has a great week of practice. I don't know if he practices.
The odds are against it, but keep an eye on it. We'll certainly keep an eye on it. But you're right. That is it for the Eagles. But it's not that they have a lot of them. And obviously, Nakobe Dean with the torn patella tendons is very disappointing. It's for him and obviously the Eagles. But that's it. But they've got the ones that they have are of, to me, great concern.
100%. No doubt about it. Very, very much can be a neutralizing factor. I think we both agree that the Eagles are the better 53, the better overall team, the better talent. All things considered, the Eagles should win the game on talent, but injuries could be a tremendous neutralizer, and certainly once your quarterback and your top cornerback would be the case. So let's take a quick look at Washington, because talk about neutralizers. They have one really good offensive lineman, right guard Sam Cosmi. And anybody watching that game, you heard me talk about an unnatural bend by Jaylen Herz when he got tackled. Well, if you see the way Sam got rolled on in that game on a goal line carry, I think it was, or a goal line play, yeah, it's bad. And he's out for the rest of the year or playoffs with an ACL injury. And this forces a really interesting decision, right, Adam, for Washington, because I know Trent Scott has come in and backed up before. They have another guy, Chris Paul, who's played some backup, but they are really not blessed with great talent in their backups. A lot of teams aren't. The Eagles have some pretty good backups, but I just wonder if the wheels are spinning here, and maybe somebody moves around instead of just a 1-for-1 replacement. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm interested to see what their practice report will look like this week.
Yeah, so Scott, who was a tackle by trade, I remember talking to some people who've worked with him in the past. He's ideally a right tackle guard. He's been cross-trained in recent years. He was drafted as a center, played mostly center, played some guard. Clearly was the guy to replace Cosmi. Cosmi is just a wonderful player. It's a shame. He got his contract extension. Good for him. He, by the way, is their right guard. So typically you don't – like I know some people want Brandon Coleman to move inside, who's their left tackle. That's a decision for the offseason. I don't see them doing that. You never say never with these things, but you don't like to make wholesale changes in the playoffs when you've played the same way. But they're going to have to take a look at Coleman, who's we previewed him for our draft coverage with Greg Cosell, and I remember talking to some personnel people who thought that had the good enough athleticism at left tackle, but he's just not long enough and that was going to be a problem for them. Or not for them, but for any team who drafted him. But look, when you look at it now with Cosme out with that torn right ACL, because it happened so late, obviously he'll be on PUP to start training camp. And realistically, he won't be available for them for the first 4 games, which is the revised PUP rule. So that's a shame. That's a real problem. As you said, he's by far the best lineman. And that, you've got Allegretti and Wiley, the former Chiefs, and you mentioned Coleman and Biotish, who comes over from Dallas. But it's been a well-coached line. It's it's a good scheme from Cliff Kingsbury. And we'll when we preview the game this week in a variety of ways, the thing that you love about their scheme is, man, Jaden Daniels is incredible with those quarterback designed runs. He's so patient. He is, and obviously dual threat. I mean, my gosh, as a passer, he ripped the Eagles the last game with 5 touchdown passes. So they know it's coming, but that's a big look. Trent Scott is, kind of a journeyman. So that's a shame. That's a really major problem for them as they go forward here.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking, because you and I chatted, like, Brandon Coleman is supposed to be a guard. Right now he's playing left tackle, but he's a rookie. You don't want to mess around with that. But then after we talked about it, I looked, and Andrew Wiley, I'd forgotten, he started off his career as a guard. He started many games at guard. So maybe the idea is maybe you could move Wiley to guard and play Cornelius Lucas at tackle, because at least that gives you some veteran experience, some guys who've played for a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what the combination is, and I know that you try not to. You want your best 5 though when you're playing in a playoff game and it's a do or die game. So we'll have to see exactly what Washington wants to do there. They've got a couple of different options, and I imagine this week they're going to powwow as a coaching staff and try to figure out what the best option is. Now, the good news for them is Marshawn Lattimore played 90% of the snaps against the Lions, and unless there's a pop-up injury with which you always have to worry about with the chronic hamstring issues. It looks like what looked a couple of weeks ago like a bad trade now all of a sudden is looking like a pretty good move for them, and they're in the championship game with a chance to win it, and Lattimore is healthy.
Yeah, healthy as he's probably going to be at this point with the chronic hamstring problems that go back to Ohio State in 2017. So they gave up a lot to get him, but they needed him. They needed a number 1 corner, Sanders Strill, who eventually could be a nickel in future years. That was my understanding, is that's what their thought was when they drafted him. But you have to remember, he came to Michigan as a receiver, so the guy could run, and he's a really smart, tough guy. It's been a good story for them. Jeremy Chinham told us had a really good year. They're very happy with him. Quan Martin, they kind of said, remember, he's their nickel last year.
Yep.
Now he's playing safety. Igbo Hagany, who was the former first rounder from Miami, that was a really bad miss. He really should have been drafted in the 3rd round, not first. He's kind of been a surprise. I didn't see this. I'm good for Noah that he's found a home.
Yeah, he's sort of been a surprise in that he's not been bad, right? Like he's not
right. Yeah, that's probably a better way to look. I get it. I get it.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
Very fair. No, but honestly, because the Eagles picked on him, if you remember, not only in this game, but the first game in Philly. But the bottom line is this defense for the Commanders. We'll talk more about this later this week with our guy Frankie Louvu, who's been a favorite of ours for many years on Inside the Birds, and Wagner has been provided the leadership they're looking for. You got Jonathan Allen back playing with that partial torn pectoral. I don't know how he's doing it. As one person said to me, league source said that, man, it's really hard, even if it's not a full tear, it's really hard to do that. But good for him. But man, the line moved, by the way. It opened at 4 to 4.5, depending which book you looked at. And at DraftKings currently, it is 5.5. The total is 47.5. And by the way, the early call on weather, it's funny, in Kansas City, where it was really cold, mid-30s and 40 degrees in Philly, the warmest day of the week, it's going to be cold as hell this week. But right now, unless it changes dramatically, it could be around 40.
All right. Well, that actually helps a little bit when you're dealing with injuries, because it just allows you to get a little bit looser. However, I'm guessing by kickoff, 3:00, and then halftime, it'll probably be closer to the 30s, which, hey, that's still better, because as we record this, it's about 7 degrees outside right now. So you'll take it a little bit extra. So Good stuff. All right. We'll be back with our normal coverage throughout the week. Just wanted to give everybody an injury update as we continue to just pursue every single angle here on Inside the Birds. That's going to do it for our injury report. For Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Catch you on this next show.